Hey everyone. It's been a while since I last posted. I had a bit of creator's block since then. I wanted to make a video on this topic for a couple weeks now, but I didn't know how to go about it. Finally, I decided to just keep it simple. I'm just going to give my thoughts on this situation, not as someone who knows what's going on, but as someone who can put some pieces together and offer a fair amount of insight into the situation. Simply put, most of what I'm going to say aren't going to be facts. They'll mostly be my own opinions and inferences, some of which may be right, and some may be wrong. Before I get into it, I do want to issue a trigger warning. This video will touch on topics such as EDs and abuse. If these topics aren't too upsetting for you, then by all means continue watching, but if they are, please prioritize your own mental health and click out of this video. Now, let's begin. So, I've seen the videos people have made recently about Eugenia's TikToks and TikTok lives. I want to start with a clip that's circling around of Eugenia trying to quietly go outside to look at the moon. She tries not to wake her mother up as she opens her door. However, the bells on her door rings, awakening her mother. Eugenia visibly looks scared as she's making noise, as if she's scared to wake her mother. You can barely hear what her mother says in the background, but judging by the fact that Eugenia ends up staying inside, it's safe to say she told her not to go outside. Trying to think where the best place to see it will be.
Oh, she's awake. I woke her up. Hey, Mom. Did you hear about the moon? Is it that? Everyone's telling me I need to go see it. Oh, okay. All right, let's look through. We're just going to look through the window, guys. Is it that amazing? Everyone's was begging me to see it. Sorry, I woke you up.
In my opinion, this video is concerning. Eugenia is 29 years old. She is a fully grown adult who should be able to do whatever she wants to do. It's not right that her mother tells her whether or not she can go outside to look at the moon. I definitely think people's concerns about this are warranted. This video reminds me of one of the ones that Eugenia's former friends made back around 2019. These were the friends who got her involuntarily admitted into a hospital, and they talked about how difficult and controlling Eugenia's mother was, and honestly, probably still is.
Okay, so there's a lot of a backstory with the mom. Eugenia is an adult. She's, I believe, 24, 25 years old. She's never allowed to go anywhere. It's all completely manipulated by the mother. There is a driver, Edgar. Every hangout with friends is an orchestrated pickup and drop off by Edgar, who waits outside. And in this situation, when Eugenia called her mom and her mom was furious, Edgar came into the apartment and was banging on the door.
He followed me into my apartment. Because I had to go out and I had to tell the mental health professionals that she was trying to leave. And he followed me into my apartment and was screaming at me. He started banging on all of my neighbors' doors until he finally got to mine and figured out where my apartment was. And he's banging on the door. I was terrified. This was a big guy. He was screaming.
These were not people looking out for Eugenia's best interest. These are people looking for some form of gain and manipulation in a way that this video, the Shane video that came out today, completely glosses over the real problems and makes us completely worried that she's not okay.
One of the comments I've seen on that video was one where someone said Eugenia probably has an ED because it's the only thing she can control in her life. Her mother is so controlling that Eugenia wants to be able to at least control when and if she eats. Now, personally, I think that's at least part of Eugenia's problem with food. I definitely can't sit here and say that's the main reason, but I do think it could be one of the reasons she holds on to it so strongly. If this is the case, if Eugenia is essentially being controlled by her mother and she feels that food is the only domain she has control over in her life, then this situation is much more serious than it's ever seemed to be. It's one thing to struggle with an ED, and it's a whole other thing to have the person or people closest to you get in your way of ever recovering from it. Unfortunately, I think the only way Eugenia could stand a chance to recover is for her to not live with her mom anymore. She doesn't seem to be a good influence on Eugenia, and I think some distance may help Eugenia be able to think straight. I hear a lot of people saying that Eugenia should be banned off of social media until she gets proper help. I disagree with that. I don't think banning her off of social media would help her at all. If anything, I think it'd make her mental health worse and therefore make her ED worse. I think there's some benefit to Eugenia being on social media beyond the money. I think it helps at least a little bit for her to see and hear comments about the truth of her situation. I think if she doesn't have anyone around her be honest with her, that's the most harmful situation she can be in. Does that make sense? Because it's clear her mom isn't helping her understand the severity of her condition. So what now? I don't think it's a problem for people to show genuine concern for Eugenia and what she's going through. I think instead of trying to get her banned off of social media, her content where she essentially shows off her emaciated body should be flagged, and that is what should be banned. I think when she's dressing up as a little mermaid or some other character and she's prancing around showing how gaunt she is, that it's extremely harmful for people to see, especially young people. I think content like that is inappropriate for the general public to be able to access. So yes, I think photos and videos that show how emaciated her body is should be censored. I really do. You know what that would remind me of? It kind of reminds me of the issue some TikTokers have mentioned, where those of a larger size would be flagged for inappropriate content when they'd wear more revealing clothes, but skinny people would wear the same amount of clothes and not be flagged for it. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember people talking about it. That situation tells me that being flagged for potentially inappropriate content is taken on a case-by-case basis. I think in Eugenia's case, we can clearly say a lot of how she dresses is inappropriate just because of the state she's currently in. Yes, this limits some of the control she has over her content, which is something that we're kind of speculating a bit, like maybe she has this ED to have control over her life. However, it doesn't stop her from being able to make any content at all. Instead, it just forces her to keep her body image issues to herself and not give that to anyone else online. I think that's both a realistic and fair consequence to implement online. Some things should be and currently are regulated online. You can't post literally whatever you want anyway, so might as well help out with this situation instead of doing absolutely nothing. Hopefully, nothing that anyone ends up doing to try to help Eugenia backfires. I hope Eugenia gets well soon. I know she's recently been hanging out with the likes of Jeffree Star. I think those two are just collabing on content, to be honest. I don't think Jeffree is making her situation any better or worse. So yeah, these are my opinions on Eugenia Cooney's situation. I think she doesn't have good people who are close to her, and I think that's the reason her situation is getting worse and worse. I think the most that we can do as viewers is voice our support of her, and also try to flag any videos or photos that show her emaciated body. That's it. I think those are the two most beneficial things we can actually do. Outside of us, I think it'd be great for Eugenia to either live on her own, or at least live with people who care more about her well-being than her mother does. And yes, I feel confident enough to say her mother doesn't care about her well-being based off of how she talks about Eugenia's health when she's featured on her channel. Saying Eugenia's always been a skinny mini is insane. I'm sorry, but that's not what a person who cares about Eugenia's health would say. So yeah, Eugenia, I hope you get well. I hope one day you could stop twisting the comments that people make about your frame into compliments and see them as the pleas of desperation that they are. People care about you more than you care about yourself, and you should let them. You should take their lead on this because they're right, even if it feels terrible. Oftentimes, the actions that feel the worst are the ones that are the best for you, and vice versa. Exercise feels terrible in the moment for most people, but makes you feel great in the long run. You need to start caring about the long run, Eugenia, because if you don't, your run will no longer be long. Get well soon, Eugenia Cooney.